board. And you should know that, again, these are all placed on our website afterwards, and you can feel free to, share these videos with other members of your faculty and other colleagues after the fact. So it's my privilege and really delight to welcome our colleagues from Gateways here in the greater Boston area. And today's session will be, as you can see, Madrichim. They're good for more than sharpening pencils. And we're going to learn a lot about how to maximize the use of our teens in our classrooms. And as we get started, I just want to welcome everybody. If you're new to our programs, welcome. This is part of Hebrew College, which is based in Newton, Massachusetts. And we're so glad that so many of you are joining us today. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Susan Morell, to say a few words about our presenters today.
Hi, everyone. I am very delighted to introduce our presenters because I've had the privilege of working with both of them. So Sandy Gold is the Director of Professional Development and Consultation at Gateways, and Mia Hyman is the Behavioral Specialist and the Coordinator of the Teen Volunteer Madrichim program at Gateways. And I'm sure that many of you know about Gateways, but if you don't, certainly you will learn about more about what they do in this session. But their mission is really to make sure that Jewish education is accessible to everyone. And their main focus is on inclusion and accessibility. And we are really lucky that we have them right here in Newton, and their work is all around the country. So welcome, Sandy and Mia. I'm going to turn it over to both of you.
Thank you, Susan. I'm going to start sharing my screen so that we know that we have just a short window of time and we want to maximize our time with you. But as we're going through our presentation, please, if you have questions, throw them in the chat, flag us down. We want you to get as much out of this session as you can. And so if you've got questions, don't wait till the very end if it's something that you want us to answer on the spot. So bear with me while I get the PowerPoint. This is always my least favorite part of any training.
You're doing great, Sandy.
Always fingers crossed until it gets going. Okay, so we want to welcome you all here. And very, very quickly, we'd love you to use the chat to introduce yourself. Where are you from? Are you a teacher? Are you a director? Give us a little bit about, do you use Teen Madrichim in your classroom now, or is this something you're looking towards bringing in? So if you could just take a quick moment, throw that stuff in the chat, it would help Mia and I get a sense of who is in the room with us and make sure that we address what you're looking to get out of this session. Hi, Tamar. It's nice to see you. Tamar is our CEO.
What? We have a CEO? No, I'm just joking.
Okay, so
I just wanted to hear a little bit for a half hour while I could be here and say hello to everyone. It's wonderful to see everyone.
So we have a director, we have an assistant director, we have teachers, we have
North Texas. Welcome. That's always exciting. We're in Boston, so I actually find Swampscott very exciting too, because I never go there.
Hi, Jessie. It's nice to see you again.
You too.
Okay, so we've got a lot of directors, and I know we have at least one person who's filling in for a director who's on maternity leave. Hi, Nomi. Welcome. Oh, and we have teachers. Thanks. This is great. So we've got a really nice variety. So we will do our best to keep that in our minds, Mia, that we have teachers and directors on this call. And yes, things have changed after the pandemic. And we truly believe that teens can be a huge help in moving ourselves forward. Great. So we've got a really nice group, wide backgrounds and ranges of skills. And please, as we talk about our goals today, we're hoping that all of you will learn a little bit more about how Team Madrichim can be active and valuable contributors, and that you'll walk away with an understanding of some concrete strategies. And we're also hoping that if you have some great ideas of things that you're already doing, please throw them in the chat. Mia and I love the work that we do with our teens, but we are not at all saying that ours is the only answers, the only ways to do things, and we love to learn from all of you as well. So please keep sharing thoughts and ideas as we go. So that being said, our plan for today is to start with why Teen Madrichim. Hopefully you're all here because you believe it is an important thing to do in your programs, and we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about why. Mia is going to share with us a lot of the skills, interventions, and strategies that she uses at Gateways in our standalone program. And then we'll spend a little bit of time at the end talking about how teachers and teens can co-teach and work together. And then hopefully we will have time at the end for questions. So a little bit of text study to get us started. 2 quotes. Teach a child according to his ways, and all Israel is responsible for one another. We would love to hear from you, whether it's via the chat or unmute for a moment and share with your voice. We would really love to hear your thoughts on one or both of these quotes and what this has to do with working with Teen Madrichim.
I see Eliana raising her hand.
You
unmute,
can just
Eliana.
unmute and shout it out.
A great job raising your hand and waiting your turn.
Thank you. So I'm Eliana Stein. I am the Assistant Director of the K-5 Learning Programs at TBE in Wellesley. And I also work with our Madrichim in that role. And we've actually been having the conversation about the first text a lot recently, that our goal is really to meet our kids where they're at, kids in Madrichim alike, and that success looks really different for everybody in the classroom, the teacher, the kids, the Madrichim, and really like the importance of getting to a successful point and how that looks different for everybody in the room.
Beautifully said.
I was going to say, we couldn't say it any better than you just did. I love it. In the chat, we have the first one is so perfect for me this year. The Teen Madrichim I was assigned is very immature. So I just need to be patient with her, not expect too much, and just repeat to her each week what I need her to do. I'm so glad you brought that up. We do expect a lot of our teens, and we know that teens can deliver, but they need training and they need to be taught, and we need to remember that we need to work with them with the same mindset that we work with our students. So that's great. There's a couple of hands up. Let's take like 2 or 3 more people, Mia.
Yeah, I see Jesse Rubenstein. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Jesse, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, great.
Rubenstein is exactly how you pronounce it.
Okay.
One of the things that I've been really working with my teachers in particular on this year, especially with regards to this first passage, is the fact that a lot of their Madrichim are, like a lot of their students, neurodivergent. And so in order to empower them, we need to be working with them as we would our own students, because the goal of our program is really to empower our Madrichim to be future Jewish leaders. And we want our Madrichim to feel that they are empowered no matter who they are. And so we've been working with our teachers on ways to communicate with their Madrichim using multiple modalities to include them in the classroom, and making sure that they feel the responsibility, and that our Madrichim feel the same responsibility to their students, trying to make sure that everyone can access what we're doing equally.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. And maybe just one more, Mia, and then anybody else, please keep throwing comments in the chat, because I do want to make sure that we get through everything that Mia wants to share with everybody today too. Oh, Mia just got kicked out, so she's going to try to come back in as quickly as she can. I just got a text from her. So while we wait for Mia to get back in, I just want to echo what a lot of you have been saying, that we are asking religious school teachers who may or may not have formal training and who only see their students once or twice a week to be able to accommodate and create meaningful learning experiences. That's asking a lot. But our religious schools really need to reflect our communities. Nearly 20% of all school-age children in America receive some sort of support, whether it's for learning challenges, mental health needs, for a disability, and making sure that we can meet the needs of a true community is, an important part of what we do as religious school educators, and that's where our Teen Madrichim can help. Is Mia back in yet? I'm gonna wait till I hear from Mia.
Shimon, I don't know if you could see Shimon has his hand raised.
Oh, great. I'm sorry. See, I thought Mia was supposed to be doing this part. I'm so sorry. One more comment, then sure.
Hi, I teach Zoom classes online, so I use my Hebrew name in my Zoom classes online. I'm Sam Rosenstein. I was recently a student at Hebrew College in their graduate education program. And inclusive education and neurodiversity are a passion of mine. They've been a passion of mine since I started teaching 20 years ago. And I work closely with the Madrichim that I teach to understand both of these passages, to understand that we have to reach every student where they are, and our Madrichim can help with that. And that is a direct charge that we have because we're all responsible for each other. One additional quote I did want to throw in there, which is something that is in this week's Parsha, and one of my students is actually going to be talking about in her Devar Torah at her Bat Mitzvah, is from Parshat Vayera, where God sees Ishmael where he is, Ba'asher hu sham. And the teaching there is that we all have to see all of our students where they are in the moment that they are, and we have to reach them where they are at this point in their lives, not where we want them to be or not where they used to be, but who they are, how they learn, how they process information, and how they behave in the classroom depends on us seeing them for who they are. So
Great.
It's something I'm very passionate about.
Yes, and that you worded that so nicely. I'm glad you were able to share that with us. Okay, Mia's back in, so I'm going to keep going now. When we think about why teens and why we believe so strongly that teens can add to our programs, one of the things that we know is that teens bring a connection. They're more like peers. And for some of our kids who find religious school challenging or stressful, having that relationship with someone closer to their age who can say things like, hey, I remember when I was in this class, ooh, I struggled with that, learning that trope also really helps make that connection for them. There's a coolness factor, especially as the kids get a little older and they start to question, do I really want to be at Hebrew school? Where do I, what do I think about Judaism? Having teens come back voluntarily and being active in the classroom is a great way to send that message. Hey, I'm even older than you and I still care about being Jewish. This is important. They bring a ruach and a spirit. This is something that Mia works with our teens a lot on is, bring that camp spirit into the classroom with you, because some of the kids really get off on that. That helps motivate them. And then when we think about attention, when we only meet once a week, it's really hard for a teacher who may or may not have that formal training to connect with every kid in their class and meet all those diverse learning needs that we see in the classrooms today. And so using the teen as volunteers or Madrichim is a way that we can get extra attention to those students that really need it in order to be successful with our curriculums. I came into some of this work both as an educator, but also as a parent. This young lady serving as a teen in this photo is my daughter, who is now 23 years old and a special education teacher. And one of the things that I love about using the Teen Madrichim in classrooms is not only are there all those benefits that we just talked about for the students, but the teens get so much out of it. It really is a parallel curriculum that we're doing. Our teens are gaining life skills. They're learning how to think on their feet, be flexible, talk to parents, modify on the spot. There's a sense of pride. We see it in our teens all the time. They show up for these bar and bat mitzvahs of the kids that they've worked with, and they're just beaming. They take such ownership over their role that they played in helping the kids get to that milestone. It strengthens the teens' connection to their community. And in a time when we're constantly struggling to figure out in synagogues, how are we going to make this relevant for teens? This is an easy way. They feel needed. They feel valued. It makes them feel a connection into their own community. And then larger than their own synagogue world, they become ambassadors for inclusion. When they see how much kids can do, that's the message that they take with them. We ask for quotes at the end of every year, and Mia and I, every single year, we're blown away by what the teens share with us about what they've learned about inclusion and acceptance of people with differences. So in that way, it's just as important as the work we're doing for our kids. I really do believe we're doing parallel curriculums there. Okay, so our next phase, we've talked a bit about why Teen Madrichim, and now we are going to move on to what are some actual skills, interventions, strategies. The kids that come to Gateways on Sundays have a wide range of diverse learning needs, and yet we are able to meet just about everybody's needs individually because of the way we use our teens. And so that is what Mia is going to address with us in this next section. Is Mia back?
Oops, I was muted. I'm back. Okay. Sorry. Thanks for everyone's flexibility as I disappeared. My internet connection went out. All right. So I'd love for you guys to take advantage of the chat and put in a few things, specific responsibilities that your current Madrichim have, or even Madrichim that you might not have, you wish you had, what kind of responsibilities you think would be important for them to take on. So fire away. I'll give a few moments.
Supervising a learning station, giving students a break from the classroom when they need it, collecting tzedakah, helping with Hebrew, walking kids to the bathroom, reading stories, one-to-one Hebrew practice, extra set of hands in the classroom. Oh, Jessie has her teens plan 2 mini lessons a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, collaborating with the teachers each week.
Great.
Sam also says he's allowed teens who are passionate about a particular lesson to lead it. Awesome.
That's great.
Snack preparation, one-to-one tutorial with kids, running Hebrew games, attendance, running their own station, Hebrew break time. Okay, so we can hear our teens are being used and used in a variety of roles within the classroom. Some academic, oops, sorry about that, and some kind of administrative.
Yeah, great.
So,
All right.
yeah, go for it.
Yes. So I wanted to share with you guys a few specific strategies and supports that you could take with you today and teach to your teen volunteers to use in the classroom setting. And so we've been talking a lot about connection and how teens can create a connection. And so we always with my teens, I always start with rapport building, right? We want to build that really strong rapport. Students are more likely to be compliant to instructions and directions if they have a strong rapport with the individual who is giving them those instructions and directions. So there's a lot of research out there about how to build strong rapport, and I tried to narrow it down into 4 particular areas. One is associating yourself with things that the students already find are cool or, you know, reinforcing, engaging in reciprocal activities, responding to with genuine care, and greeting and recognition at the door. So we're going to talk a little bit about each of those and what your teens can do to build that rapport with the students in their classroom setting. Sandy, you have to, yeah. All right, so there's this really cool study, and I thought this was pretty amazing, that it shows that greeting students at the classroom door increases academic engagement by 27%. That's like a good chunk of a good increase. So that's something that your teen volunteers can absolutely do. I would honestly have them stand right at the front of the classroom door and greet each of the students with a positive tone, right? Maybe remind them of something that happened last week that was exciting, or even giving them a reminder of like, this week we're going to work really hard to stay in our seat, or whatever the positive way of reminding them of something that they maybe had found challenging the week before. But really just that immediate connection when they first walk into the classroom is what we're looking for the teens to do. So I wanted to show you guys a video. This is an example of greeting at the door. So on the right side of the screen, you'll say, today I'd like to be greeted by, because not everybody wants a high five or a hug, but this way we are empowering the students with a sense of control over the setting. And if you have that visual, ooh, are you moving that? If you have that visual up by the door, then this teen can be like, how would you like to be greeted today? Do you want a hug, a high five, a handshake, a wave, a big hello? So the student can either respond, or they can respond verbally, or just point to the visual on the door. So this is a great clip just showing what that can look like.
Mia, your video isn't in there, and I don't know why.
All right, it's not a big deal. That's totally fine. It's just, I get a video of literally what I just explained to you. No problem. We will be flexible. Sandy, you can turn it to the next. Awesome. All right. The other thing that our teen volunteers can do really well is take advantage of visual schedules. So this is an example of a visual schedule we use in one of our programs. It's called Mitzvah Menches. It's for some of our older students. And I have teen volunteers use this visual schedule when the students walk into the classroom, let them know what's happening for the day, making the day predictable, going through and asking the students, what are you most looking forward to? What looks like it might be challenging or hard? What are you like confused about, because we only have the title on here? What do you think is going to happen during this time? So it creates opportunity for awesome back and forth conversation with the student and the teen volunteer, as well as provides the student who might be anxious or a little weary about what's going on in the setting. Anytime we can make it more predictable for them, the more likely that they will participate. So teens can absolutely go over the visual schedule with our students.
And Marianne reminded everybody in the chat that there's so many ways of creating routines that reinforce learning. And I think that is certainly Mia's approach to everything she does. You know, how consistent and routine can we make this?
Right.
And so, yes.
If the students know that they're going to be greeted at the door by the Madrich or Madricha, and then they're going to go over the visual schedule, that's a routine that you can stick to no matter what the day holds, right? It might be a special day, maybe it's Purim or a Hanukkah celebration, but you can still start the day off with these 2 routine activities to get the students settled and then move into the next task or activity.
Yes, Marianne, and as she pointed out, it's same for the teens as well.
Oh,
when we
absolutely.
give our teens that routine, you know, a lot of you in the chat had already talked about the fact that sometimes the teens need support and guidance as well. And so, yes, all of these strategies that we would like our teens to do with our students it's that dual curriculum again. It's helping our students and it's helping our teens be successful at the same time.
Yeah. All right. So another kind of quick, easy strategy support that I encourage the teens in our program to do, and that is really effective when working with students, is how we give instructions. So I always tell our teens, you guys are just the most polite teenagers I've ever met, because they always give instructions as a question like, are you ready to go to music? And then that opens up the stage for the student to say no. Right. And then you're stuck. And so I remind the teens that we want to provide instructions and directions in a way that's not going to back us into that corner where they can say no or yes to it. So I explain this as giving an instruction or direction as a controlled choice, right? You can almost always turn an instruction into some sort of choice. So do you want to sit on the floor, or do you want to sit at the table to make this Seder plate? Are you ready to start, as opposed to, are you ready to start making this Seder plate, right? Do you, once we complete the Seder plate, it's snack time, as opposed to, we're going to be done this, then are we going to do snack? No, right? They can say no again. So I tell my teens to almost play, like give themselves a challenge. In this situation, how can I make it so it's a choice as opposed to a question or a direction? So do you want to walk down the hall? You know, if you have a kid who has trouble with transitions, do you want to walk down the hall forwards or backwards? Do you want to walk down the hall going the long way or the short way? You know, things like that, just to empower them with, again, that sense of control over their environment can make a huge difference in regards to how compliant they are. And we have to teach our teens to ask the instructions in a way that's going to provide our students with that opportunity.
And I'm just going to jump in here again, Mia. What I love about the way Mia trains teens is it's also really helpful for some of our teachers. When we have teachers in the classroom are not formally trained in education, I've been told by directors that when they use our teen Madrichim training materials, they find them just as helpful with the teachers as they do with the teens. And so we have a lot of teachers who make this same kind of mistake about giving directions as a question. And so when we're getting the teens out of that habit, we're also getting the teachers out of the habit.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Thanks for saying that. All right. So another area that, or another strategy that we often use in Hebrew school settings, but also obviously this takes place in general educational settings as well, as we talk a lot about taking a break. And so often the teacher in the classroom will ask the teen Madrichim to be the one who takes that student on a break. And typically a break includes, when I go into religious schools and other settings, it often involves, you know, maybe a walk around the building and then back to class, right, to kind of reset themselves. So one of the things I like to share with teens is that in actuality, there's two types of breaks, and probably maybe there's more, but I try and break it into two to make it keep it simple. You could take a physical break, like I need to move my body, so walking around the school is helpful, or doing jumping jacks in the break spot or push-ups on the wall, right? Like I have a lot of additional energy, and so I want to get that out, and that's always important. And then there's this idea that there is also cognitive breaks, especially at a Hebrew school setting. Our students are coming to us after possibly a long day at school, or after a weekend that they've done something, or they're preparing to go somewhere. So they've got a lot of thoughts in their head, and they're thinking a lot about different things. And so if they show up to Hebrew school and they are stuck on the fight they had with their sister in the car on the way there, or maybe they were left out of a game at school that afternoon at recess, and they're thinking about those things, that's going to impact their ability to access the curriculum at Hebrew school. And so sometimes we need cognitive breaks. And when I say that, I mean, we really need to shift gears about what we're thinking about. So I'm going to give some concrete ideas about what a physical break looks like, and what, when I talk to kids about it, I don't use the word cognitive, we'll call it a brain break, right? So think about yourself, even like you can tell, what kind of break do I need after this fabulous workshop that Sandy and Nia did? Maybe you'll need a physical break, right? You've been sitting for a while, you need to stand up, you'll go for a walk, you'll do some push-ups on the wall, or maybe, oh my goodness, that content was so awesome, but slightly overwhelming. I need a brain break, right? Maybe you'll pick up your phone and you'll do Wordle, or, you know, you'll talk to your best friend because, you know, they get your mind off of something. And so our kids have the same thing. And so on the screen right now, you're seeing some options for activities for a physical break versus a brain break. And so our teens may or may not know which break our student needs, but at least this provides them with a toolbox of options that they can now grab from, right? Does our brain need a break? For the little kids, we often use like I Spy books or Where's Waldo. You're kind of just trying to think of things of like, what is something they can do that's hard to think about something else at the same time, you know? I keep using Wordle because I'm just like very into it these days. But like really, I can't think of anything else when I'm Wordling. Yep, I think that's now a word. So same thing for our students. We want to think about in that aspect.
Mia, before we go on, there's a thread going in the chat about, yes, routines are so important, but then when our teens don't show or our students don't have great attendance, that it impacts the plans. And I'm wondering if it's worth taking a step back right now and addressing that before it gets lost as we keep going.
Yeah, I mean, obviously attendance plays a huge component. In our program, like I'll just share our own experiences. We do three things to try and increase the attendance. One, we promote our program as being, and I think it is, a prestigious and important volunteer experience for our teen volunteers. And so I have them sign a contract at the beginning of the school year, and one of the contract bullet points includes their attendance and participation in the volunteer program. And we actually make it very concrete that if after 2 absences, or if you have 2 or more absences over the course of the school year, then we will connect with you to see if this is still a goodness of fit, right? And so we're letting them know from the start what our expectations are for their attendance. Additionally, it certainly helps, you know, letting them know what they're going to be getting out of it. So Sandy talked a little bit about like building ambassadors for inclusion and things like that. More concrete for a lot of our students is how this can help them if they are interested in attending college, right? I must write like 50 or so reference letters for our teen volunteers when they're applying to college, right? And I want to be able to write an honest one, and certainly their attendance would alter what I am able to speak of regarding their participation in the program. Sandy, am I missing anything?
No, I think the other thing, because we have this conversation with directors in our area a lot, where they'll say, well, how do you get your teens to show up so regularly?
Oh, right.
And I really do think that a key is, because we match them with a student that really needs them, they feel valued. They know that if they don't come, their student is going to struggle on that coming Sunday. So for example, when my daughter was doing this, for 3 years, my family only went away on one weekend that wasn't a school vacation week because my daughter kept saying, no, I can't miss. They really do get attached. And the other piece of attendance, then the impact with the students, is when they're feeling successful and they're enjoying their religious school experience because they have that extra attention, they don't want to miss either. So we also hear that from families, that sometimes they'll say something like, oh, we're going to skip Hebrew school this week. And the kids are like, no, I want to see. So that relationship that gets built between a teen and a student really does help with that attendance issue on both ends. Now, that being said, we do know that there are things that come up in the teen's life. So when they come to us and say, yes, I know I've missed, but I had an interview at a college and I had the flu and I have COVID, we obviously work with the students. We've had some of our best teen volunteers have had to miss, a number of sessions in a particular year because of life. And as we work with them, and as long as it's a reasonable, it's when they're like, oh, I'm not coming because I'm having a sleepover, that Mia's kind of like, let's have a chat.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Sandy, you touched on a lot of really important points there. And I stress every day to our teens, like the value that they hold. We tell them every single Sunday that we can't run this program without them. That's how valuable they are. This won't work without you. And so again, they feel that level of responsibility, and I think they take it quite seriously.
One other thing that can address this issue, You know, as Mia said, our program, they have to apply for it. Now, if I were the director of a program in a religious school, I would want every single teen in my community that wants to be involved to be involved. And so what we have worked with some synagogues on is creating like a two teen Madrichim program. One that is just any teen that wants to be involved signs up, and you're going to find a way because we want to keep our teens connected. And then when you have students that really need that extra support and you're planning on using the teen Madrichim for that purpose, that could be an application. That could be a higher level tier. So it's possible to do both things at the same time in your synagogue community.
Yeah, and you can even, we also are very cautious about the age range that we take. So I know some of you guys have Madrichim as young as like 8th, sometimes even 7th grade. We don't take our Madrichim until 10th grade. So with that kind of 2-tier Madrichim system, you could also break it out like that. Like you can't apply for this position until 10th grade. And to be able to do that, you have to be involved in 8th and 9th grade. And so they're earning their opportunity to be in this additional role. And also, I mean, does anyone have any other thoughts on that? Maybe you guys have some great things that you're doing in your own class, in your own synagogues to help retain that participation. You guys can throw it into the chat, absolutely, while we continue on. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the strategy of using positive praise. So yay, more research. As you can see, I'm a big fan of research. So Vanderbilt University did this great research, and it came out that they recommend that you should have 6 praise statements every 15 minutes in your classroom setting. So I go into classrooms a lot, and it's amazing how wrapped up a teacher can get in putting out fires and giving instruction that you forget to let the kids know that they're doing a great job listening, or they're doing an awesome job staying in their seats, or like things that we sometimes take advantage of. So this is a great way to use our teen volunteers because they have the opportunity to be wandering in the classroom setting and providing that praise to our students at that high level, right? Like, and it doesn't always have to be verbal praise. It can be a thumbs up. It can be like a little sign, you're doing great. That might be a little too distracting, but it can be a pat on the back. It can be a whisper in the ear, right? Our teens, if they're given a concrete goal that I'm looking to have you do 6 praise statements every 15 minutes, do the math on whatever that might be for your session or your class, right? Now you're asking them to do like 40 praise statements in 15 minutes. Let's see if you can reach that goal. So I'll go to the next one, Nancy, or Sandy, sorry. So one of the things that really helps is giving them something concrete to count those praise statements with. So we call this the paperclip challenge, and we have the teen Madrichim put 25 paper clips in their left pocket. And the goal is every time they have a praise statement, they move it to their right pocket. And their goal is to have all the paper clips over to the right side of their pocket at the end of the class, the session, whatever you're anticipating that they are, the time constraints that they're working within. So you can do it with paper clips. That works. I've also done it with like golf clickers. That works really well too. You have the, you can do it that way. Really any way to be able to count concretely how successful they are at doing this. And then you might increase the number of praise statements over time, or if they didn't reach that level of praise, then they have a goal for the next week. You can also make this fun between the teen Madrichim, right? It can be a little bit of a competition, right? Who's able to do it, how fast, how many you're getting. And you just feel in the classroom, the sense of like positivity in the classroom gets raised when you have that level of praise occurring all of the time. And sometimes it's really hard to find something to praise the students on. I joke with our teen volunteers, like sometimes you have to be like, great job breathing, Avi, right? Like you can't find anything else going right in the classroom, but sometimes you have to find just that one thing. And so it can be a really good activity for the teen volunteers.
Sandy and Mia, do you see, Sandy, you see the question?
Yep, I just saw the question. Mia, is this one-to-one praise or generalized classroom praise?
Oh, great question. So in the research study, it was generalized praise. So, but I would encourage it to be one-to-one. Because you want to really, and not only one-to-one, but like very specific. So as opposed to just good job, if they can even be like, I love the way that you're writing those Hebrew letters, right? So it's like very like, what am I doing right in this moment? Then that would be ideal. All right. Ruach, right? So it's Sunday morning. I call this lovely face resting bored face. And I tell the teen volunteers that come to us that we don't accept that face on Sundays. I'm sorry, right? And so it just this teen's body language in the classroom can create an energy for the students. And so if they're sitting like that, right, the energy in the classroom is kind of minimal. But if you have an energy and a ruach about you that is infectious and energetic, then the students feed off that. One of the things that a few people mentioned when we asked, what are your teens doing in the classroom? Some of them are doing read alouds and things like that. And so this is often a way that I encourage teens to increase their ruach in the classroom setting. Some of you may have opportunities to do actual training sessions with your teens, which is great. Maybe you get like 15 minutes at the beginning of the school year, end of the school year. So an activity you can do with them is I bring in the most boring books I can find. So like often it's like Journal of Positive Behavior Interventions, and it's like research articles and things like that. And it's extremely boring. And I tell them that we're going to practice reading this with as much energy and ruach as we have. And I want you to pretend you're sitting in front of a classroom of students and they start reading off this like bizarre language about this research, but they do it with this amount of energy and praise, and they're moving their arms around, and right, it's silly and funny and they're having fun doing it, but I'm trying to prove a point to them that we need to always have that level of energy and ruach, even when we ourselves as the teens might find this boring, or in the teens like, oh Mia, this is so lame, right? Well, show me your ruach, that energy that I know that you can have. So are the clips working? Probably not. Yeah, that's totally fine.
I'm so embarrassed. I don't know why. We've checked this presentation over and over, and now we just have this video no longer exists link, and I'm so sorry, people.
It's all right. So the clips that you're missing is if anyone has ever seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off, give me like a lot of head nods. Yeah. Okay. So the clip is when the teacher is there standing in front of the class being like, anyone, this is with and it's like the most boring lesson you've ever heard. So I show that clip to the teen volunteers. And then I also show a clip of this one you might not have seen. Most people have seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off, at least in my generation, is a clip of BJ Novak. He wrote a book called The Book with No Pictures. If you've never read it or seen it, I encourage you to find it, but it literally is a book with no pictures and it only has words. And he reads it to a kindergarten classroom, and he reads it with such right, it's phenomenal, Jesse, thank you, right? And he reads it with such energy and ruach that it doesn't matter that there's no pictures in it. It's all about the way that he presents himself and the way that he's doing it. And so I'm trying to show the difference between the two to the teen volunteers. And the other reason I tell you guys this and show you this during this presentation is because I cannot stress enough to you that whenever you can incorporate pop culture into what you're teaching the teen volunteers, it sticks in their brains so much better, right? And I can reference this now. It's like, you're sounding a little bit like Ferris Bueller, and I need you to be a little bit more like BJ Novak. And like immediately they know what I'm talking about. Oh, right, that training session Mia did with us where those clips were. I use clips from a lot of 80s movies, but that's just my own bias. But I also try and do it from other things that the kids like, right? I've used it from Hunger Games. I've used it from High School Musical. Like I try and find the teens' interests and use pop culture clips to remind them of the strategies and supports that we can use with our students in the classroom setting. All right. one of my favorite skills, right? So I encourage you guys to call them focus tools. You often hear the words fidgets or fidget toys. I mean, that is just asking a kid to play with it, right? When we call it a toy or a fidget. So what are they really meant for? They're meant as focus tools. So this is a great thing that Madrichim can do. They can actually teach this concept to the students. So there's a visual on one side of your screen that says, what do we use focus tools for? While at school, I can use focus tools to help me stay focused. And here are the best ways for me to use them. I can squish them, I can roll them, I can rub them, I can stretch them, whatever those tools that you are using in your classroom, right? If my tool becomes a toy because I start throwing it, making loud noises with it, bothering others with it, right now it's a toy. And that's a great thing to do when we have, some extra choice and playtime or recess and stuff like that. But if we really need a tool to help us focus, let's find one that's going to make us do that. And so we can.
Is that Mia's internet?
It looks like it. Mia, can you hear us?
I am going to turn her video off and see if that helps. Hey, Sandy, maybe can you pick up, Sandy?
Yep. So I think where Mia was going was, we give a script to the teens so that they have the language to use and speak appropriately to the students. We make sure the students know from the beginning, this is what you can do with it. If you start to do, it becomes like a toy and I do the throwing or the loud noises, then that tool could be taken away. In our own Wednesday afternoon class, Susan knows that we had certain focus tools that didn't come out because of that we would literally take them out of the box for Wednesday afternoons. That our Sunday class could use because of one student in the Wednesday class that just could not remember how to use it appropriately. And that's okay. And as long as the students have been taught and the teens have been taught, it's helpful. And, we as adults, we have the ability to do what we need to do to focus ourselves and no one questions it. So for example, some of you who are on this call might be, jiggling your leg right now, or somebody might be playing with a squeezy ball. I keep 2 of them on my desks at all times for when I need to do that. And letting students take control and take charge of that for themselves is also teaching them, not just helping them get through our classes, but we're teaching them life skills that they need and that they will use long after they're out of our classes.
I'm so sorry. I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yay!
This is like the worst it's ever been. I can't believe this. I'm so sorry.
I think I just got us through focus tools though, Mia.
Look at you, Sandy. You don't even need me.
I do. Always need you, Mia. Okay, so those were 7 strategies and skills that Mia wanted to share with you. We will have time at the end if people want to ask some questions, but we do want to spend a little bit of time talking about not just the strategies that our teens can do, but what it can look like having a teen in the classroom. So the official definition of co-teaching is collaboration between a classroom teacher and another person designed to help meet the needs of all learners in the classroom. And I think we would, all agree this is our goal. We want to meet the needs of all of our learners. So why can't we use that teen as our other person? Just like many of our students, remember, if they're in public school and they have some diverse learning needs, they're used to being in a classroom setting where they have a teacher and an assistant teacher, or 2 teachers for part of the day. So when we're in religious school and now we have some part-time teachers who may or may not have formal training, it's even more important that we give that teacher as much support as we can so that they can support the students in the classroom. So what could that look like? These are 4 different models of what co-teaching can look like. The red is one is teaching and one's supporting. And that's a lot of what Mia's been talking about, that the teacher is teaching and we have given the teens strategies so they can circulate and support students as needed. and it's a strategy that it works and it's really helpful. And if that's the strategy that you're comfortable with, great. It can be a huge support. Our yellow box is called parallel teaching. This is a little different. You can see in this one that there's a teacher in the front of the room and a teacher in the back of the room. And basically what happens in this model is that the class will get divided into 2 groups and they're going to work parallel. So in this model, you might have your teen actually taking a group of students, and instead of teaching a lesson to a whole class, you've now divided them into 2 smaller groups. One group is being led by the teen. It gives more time for students to ask questions, for more time for students to engage and interact. And again, it goes really far in making the teen feel really needed in your classroom. It's a model that can also work really well if you have the physical space and you have a teen that has the skills to handle that. I'm not going to say that every one of our teen volunteers could do that, but we certainly do have some that can, and we will use them in that way. The green is station teaching. This is the model that we use most often at Gateways on a Sunday morning, where the teacher will set up multiple activities at different stations around the room. And either the teacher and the teen can float or they can be assigned to a specific station. So station work really requires planning, because as the teacher, you need to have the activity ready to go. You need to have instructions. You need to model so that the teens know, so that the students know. And then having a teen who is either at one station or floating between 2 stations that can jump in and help a student, and a teen pairing when they get stuck can be really helpful. And this is a great way that you can differentiate and provide different levels of activities all on the same topic, all at the same time. And then the purple one is team teaching. And that's what Mia and I have been doing.
Yes. Can I interrupt for just a second? Because
Please, Mia, jump on in.
One of the questions that we get a lot is situations where either the students actually feel a stronger connection with the teen as opposed to the teacher, and might be actually more responsive to the teen than the teacher. And like, how do you balance that in your classroom? And the teacher's not feeling so great about themselves in that way. So parallel teaching and station teaching can be a helpful way to set up the classroom so that a student who might be more likely to be uncooperative with a teacher is now not just getting frontal teaching from that teacher, they're getting exposure to the teacher and the teen throughout the lesson. Did I explain that right? I feel like you even said this at one point, Sandy, and I just tried to copy what I've heard you say before.
You did great.
Okay.
And just so everybody knows, we are going to be sharing all of the slides at the end. And so you will get all of these slides. And on the slides, if we took something from an article, you'll have the citation for that as well. And Susan will send it out to everybody afterwards. And then I was just wrapping up with team teaching, which is really what Mia and I have been doing, where we are bouncing off of each other and we are doing this together. She talks, I talk, I interrupt her, she interrupts me. It's all good. You definitely need a level of comfort and respect if you're going to do this model. Personally, it's one of my favorite ways to teach. Susan and I do this a lot as well. And if you're going to aim for that, it's wonderful. But you'd also want to then think about building in time for your teen and your teacher to work together, plan together, because they have to build up to that level of respect. Okay, so Mia, did you want to jump in for this one?
Yes, so this can be a really helpful document for a teen to have. I would put it, sometimes I put it on a clipboard, sometimes I have them put it in their back pocket, wherever, it can be helpful. And it's this idea of like, when the teacher is engaging in this particular behavior or action in the classroom, what should the Madrichim be doing, right? Because that's often an issue we see in the classrooms, is that our teen Madrichim don't necessarily know how to initiate something, right? So if a teacher is giving instructions at the front of the class, what should I be doing as the teen volunteer? And so we can, and this is a document you can actually create with the teens, right? They might have some great ideas and they might just need validation that like, is it okay that I do this, right? They don't want to step on the teacher's toes. They don't want to do the wrong thing. So if you have a document that outlines and illustrates this, it makes everybody more comfortable. So, you know, teachers giving instruction at the front of the class, one of the suggestions is, right, catching the kids being good, right? Give them the thumbs up, the smiles, the high fives, you know, any sort of gentle redirections that might be needed, right? And so now the teen has a job, has a focus, and they can be helpful during that time in the classroom setting. Another action that a teacher engages in is helping a specific student complete an art project, right? So you're making a menorah or something along those lines. What can the teen Madrichim be doing at that point in time? Right, they can circulate the room and help other students with the art project, right? Let them know sometimes it's that basic, but we need to give them permission to engage in these behaviors in the classroom. The teacher's redirecting a student, what can the teen Madrichim, right? There is actually some sort of challenging behavior happening in the classroom setting, right? We don't want the teen Madrichim just standing there and staring at the problem, right? What can they do instead? I would encourage them to praise all the other students for engaging in the expected behavior, right? Find the kids who are doing the right thing, and you should be going around and letting them know that they should continue to do that and that they're doing a great job. A last example is that teacher is about to give a transition signal, right? We're about to get up, we're about to move to the, you know, Beit Midrash to do tefillah maybe, or something along those lines. We're having a big school assembly somewhere, right? Then that might be a good time for the teen volunteer or the Madrichim to find the student that finds transitions challenging, right? And use a timer or let them know how many more minutes it'll be before the transition, right? All those kind of transition strategies we use to help students who do struggle with transitions from one setting to the other. Our teen Madrichim can certainly take responsibility for that as long as they know what the strategies are to use. And so that's like kind of another training in itself. But again, this is just examples of how our Madrichim need that permission to be doing these things while the teachers are doing something else. And so they're not just standing at the back being wallflowers. They have concrete actions to be engaging in.
And I think one of the things I love about what Mia does with our teens is things change year to year, depending on what the teens need. And I think this is one of those activities that a teacher or a director can do with the teens, and it might change depending on what style of teaching the teacher is engaging in or who the teens are, whether they're returning teens. But it's a really, really powerful and empowering activity to do. I'm looking at the time, and so Mia, we're going to skip the last activity.
Yeah.
And we are gonna I'm going to stop sharing. And you, like I said, you will be getting all of these slides, but we literally have 2 minutes left, and I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to answer any questions, clarify anything. You will have our email addresses on the PowerPoint when it gets sent out to you, so you can also reach out directly to us. But we have 2 minutes, so this is your time now to ask us anything you've been holding on to.
Or share things you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess one of my questions is, do the majority of you get time over the school year to have training opportunities for your Madrichim, or is it just they show up on Sunday and you try and get in everything you can in that moment, and that's kind of like the end of it? Oh, I see a lot of, that's a really tough model. Yeah, to not get that time with them.
And so, you know, making a cultural change or making any change in an educational program happens over time. And so maybe that's the first little step that gets taken, that you go back to the people above you who are making some of these decisions if necessary and say, there absolutely has to be some time built in for the teens and the teachers, or for the teens and a trainer. And whether it's, we're going to compensate them, an extra $10, whatever it, maybe it's starting that simple and that basic and then building from there.
On that lovely note, Sandy and Mia, I want to thank you both for an amazing presentation with lots of very practical ideas, but also backed up by the reasons why these things work and can help us. I want to just echo what Sandy said. I urge any of you that are teachers in classrooms, you can take some of these ideas and do them yourselves without the approval of the higher
Yes.
ups. The first
I'm leaving for
Sherry, can you mute? Whoops. So I just want to urge you to do that. And then, of course, those of you that are directors, and I think Jessie put in the chat early on that she has a whole Madrichim handbook. So there's the whole scale of ways to implement a lot of these wonderful, wonderful suggestions that will make your lives as teachers better, the teens' lives better, and the students' lives better. So just so many wonderful ripple effects from what Sandy and Mia have shared with us. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. I want to bring your attention to our next session, which will be on, it's December, whoops, I thought I had it right here. Yes, it is on December 13th with Yafit Shriki Megadish, who's from Studio 70 in the Bay Area, and she'll be talking about designing and redesigning programs, creative thinking and innovation in Jewish education. That information is already on our website, so if you're interested, you can certainly register already, and of course, we'll be sending out information about that December workshop and all the other upcoming ones. So I want to wish everybody a great rest of the week, a great rest of the month, and hope to see many of you in December. And thank you for making the time to be with us today. You're welcome to unmute and unvideo yourselves, or video yourselves and wave, send a smile. Good to see so many of you.
Mia, can you stay on for 1 second?
Yeah, absolutely.
Should we stop the recording?
Yes. And Susan.